Hi, my name is Mohammed Sarwar Sakbi and welcome to our CWTC Get Connected Community Podcast to share experiences, promote services and networking and great opportunities available for residents of Oldham. In a world that's constantly evolving, the mental health of our children and young people has never been more important. From understanding developmental milestones to recognizing early signs of emotional distress. How can we create a supportive environment for our children and young people, mental and emotional growth? To help us to understand better about our topic today, we have invited Jason Bromley and Jade Sapseid from TOGMind. So, Jason and Jade, welcome to our studio. How are you?
Great, thank you for having us.
Nice and warm today.
Lovely.
And nice to see some t-shirts anyway. Jade, if we can start with you, tell us about your career and what you do at TOGMind.
Yeah, so my name's Jade. I've been working with TOGMind now for about 18 months. Right. I started my role at a very base level, working in peer support, supporting adults who presented a little bit unwell, a bit overwhelmed in crisis. I did that for about 12 months. And recently I've just moved up into leading a team of peer support workers.
Excellent.
With a new provision we offer, which is the Peer Support Project.
Superb. So you've got the qualities to go up the ladder.
Yes, I hope so.
Well done. Jason.
I done 15 years with Pennine Care. Before I worked for Tameside, Oldham and CWTC at a local level, 15 years with Pennine in health and wellbeing projects, and then I was really chuffed to join Tameside, Oldham and CWTC about a little under 9 years ago. So the first couple of years I was looking after adult mental health services in Oldham, and more recently in the last few years a lot of my work has involved marketing, fundraising and communications.
Talented man, lots of experience.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
I think we have to be in this time and age. Okay, in terms of the specific programs that you run with TOGMind, can you tell us the type of different offers that you provide to sport?
Sure, yeah, and if I miss anything, Jade, please feel free to chip in. We've been Tameside, Oldham and CWTC for over 40 years. Okay. The clue is in the name. It's our main footprint in the areas that we work is Tameside, Oldham and CWTC. But we do also, over the last couple of years, we have branched out. We do work across Greater Manchester. Yes. We work in partnership with the other branches of Mind across Greater Manchester, Salford, Stockport, Rochdale and Central Manchester. Yeah. The breadth of our work is vast, to be honest with you. We have dedicated children and young people's services. In Oldham we have Take 5, in Ashton we have Community Hive, and we also have dedicated Families in Mind services, working with the family as a whole unit. And we have dedicated adult services, early intervention support, traditional counselling that you'd expect in terms of mental health support, but also a raft of other services and training that we provide to people of Oldham of all ages. And we're really proud as well, Mohammed, of the fact that we've got a really diverse workforce of staff and volunteers with multilingual staff as well.
Brilliant. Massive work. And, like you said, the name itself says a lot. I think it's a fantastic service, which I know many people use. Jade, you mentioned about peer support, which I'm very qualified about. Excellent. And it's about providing the support, the social and the practical assistance to people who are with issues on mental health. So tell us, what does a peer support actually mean for the clients?
From Minds and I think my perspective, peer support is mutuality and it's side by side. It's not a hierarchy, it's not a service where we do something to somebody. It's a service where we empower people to recognise their own strengths.
Absolutely.
And to encourage the motivation to be able to take their own well-being into their own hands and hopefully carry that through their life in face of any challenges or periods of life where they're feeling a little bit unwell.
Excellent. Jason, would you like add anything to that?
Yeah, well, I'd just touch on the fact that I think peer support is a relatively new program of work.
Yeah.
What we're seeing at a local level and at a national level is that there is a real push to develop peer support programs, not just for adults but also for young people. So within Oldham, obviously Jade is leading up the peer support program in Oldham that we're running that people can access. But we've also got some really great work going on with our Take 5 Children and Young People service in Oldham that's headed up by my colleague Ryan. We've got peer support there for young people, and also in Tameside we work in partnership with 42nd Street in Manchester, the charity, and we've got what we call the Hope Group, and that is kind of a kind of peer support model there as well. So it's something that it's not just a box ticking exercise. It's something peer support has really demonstrated that not just with adults but with young people, it's incredibly beneficial. To their overall health and well-being, and all measurable results as well that come that adults and young people are telling us all the time.
Super. And I'm a firm believer that in addressing mental health problems at the earliest, and from getting worse, and particularly reduce the risk of developing severe conditions. So the coping strategies that we provide, can you just name me a few please?
So in terms of coping strategies, what we talk about a lot of the time at TOGMind, and I think within mental health services and support in general, we really want to try and encourage people to identify when they're struggling as early on as possible, seek support at the right time. That's one of the fundamental messages.
It is, isn't it?
And one of the things that we're really big on as a mental health charity is encouraging people to access the right support at the right time.
Excellent.
Because what we tend to find, unfortunately, within society, sometimes it's cultural factors, sometimes it's the kind of stiff upper lip of the traditional northern working class person. It can be that we bottle things up. And then what happens often is that as human beings, we hit crisis point. And when we hit crisis point, we're no longer really making rational decisions anymore. So a really, really big focus for everybody's mental health and well-being, because we all have mental health, is try your best to get the right support at the right time. Reach out, because there is so much help and support available out there.
Brilliant. Well, that's why we're here, to let people know how things are accessible and what type of support is available as well. So that brings me on in terms of the stigma side within this society. And there's many forms of stigma one can be associated with around mental health. Anything like a feeling sign of weakness. Individuals with mental health conditions seem to be violent or aggressive, etc., etc. What are the other sort of stigma signs or issues that you've actually come across?
Well, I mean, I don't know what you've experienced, Jade, but in my experience, and obviously with us working in this field, you've kind of hit on some of the key ones there, Mohammed. They are the common ones. The stigma is broad-reaching around mental health, but I do genuinely believe that it's getting better.
Good.
And I can tell.
Is that because more awareness is happening?
Yeah, really, really pertinent point. I think it ultimately comes down to education, which sounds a little bit cliche. But I think as more people within society recognise their own mental health and well-being, and that they also recognise that sometimes they don't always feel great, and we're living in a world at the moment in a society where we are often bombarded with so much negativity.
And information. Information overload.
So you're absolutely right when it comes to the stigma, but I think in addressing that stigma, a lot of the time it comes down to just having conversations, reaching out, and us helping to educate people collectively, but also people being open to the education.
While we celebrate the cultural diversity in the UK, and it's absolutely brilliant in many ways. But there are cultural sensitivities as well. And when you come to issues around mental health, there's a feeling of shame and not be able to tell one another, etc. How do you actually deal with that as a service?
That's a great question, and it's a difficult question to answer. I think, to be honest with you, I think what it starts with is understanding the communities that you're based in.
I mean, you mentioned about having a diverse workforce, which is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So you're doing the best you can, and there's a goodwill there as well.
That's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah.
Is we're really proud as a mental health charity that our workforce of staff and volunteers is reflective of the communities that we're based in.
Yeah.
And actually, because we've got such a diverse workforce, a lot of the time it's about representation.
Yeah.
It's about somebody coming through the door and seeing somebody like them.
Yes.
And we kind of understood that many years ago, and we've got better and better at it year on year in terms of striving for that representation, and helping people to understand that actually when you come through our door to access support, mental health support isn't always about the traditional form of counselling, which most people are familiar with. They've seen it on television, they've seen it in the movies, but actually mental health and wellbeing support is so much broader than counselling. There's so much more to it, and sometimes it's about that mental health support being culturally appropriate and relevant to those individuals.
And I think this is where organisations like ourselves can help and support the great work you're doing, and to identify those gaps. For example, we have just started working on developing children and young people mental health working group, and which is supported by a department of the Oldham Council, encouraging us to bring services and individuals together to promote the work around mental health. And you would be an excellent service on to help that working group.
That would be fantastic.
With your great knowledge and resources. When it comes to training, Jade, what sort of a training is available for individuals and organisations?
Yeah, I'm going to redirect this one to Jason because this is his bread and butter.
Is it?
So it is this one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when it comes down to training, it's something we're really passionate about in terms of, going back to the previous question, educating the public, but also educating professionals and continued professional development within clinical networks, but also within workplaces as well. So we have a raft of different training that we deliver, from mental health first aid, youth mental health first aid, but also bespoke training as well. So sometimes we'll speak to an organisation, another charity or a business or individuals, and they're like, well, I kind of need a little bit of this, I need a little bit of that. I want to know about the 5 ways to well-being, I want to know about stress and anxiety management, and I want to know about how to implement good strategy within my working environment. And we can put something together that's customised around that. We've got a dedicated training manager who looks after all of that. And all of that information can be accessed through our website, all of that stuff.
I think it's a great idea that we could have another session just around training, and just pick up a topic and we can talk about it more in detail.
Anytime.
Brilliant. So, what do you Jade, would you like to add anything to what's been said today?
Like Jason's just give a stellar example of our training services. I could just touch on what you was talking about when you were going back to stigma and to responding to cultural and community needs, and how TOG can do that. In terms of stigma, we know that, like Jason said, by educating people can overcome stigma. I think by normalising mental health as well is great to overcome it. When people come to TOGMind, to speak about what they're going through, it's validating and normalising it, and it's giving somebody the space to talk about it and to be who they are without them feeling judged. Even people with the most supportive networks around them, who are blessed with family and friends who they can talk to, it can still be incredibly difficult to open up to people, for fear of being judged. So it's being open to that.
So how can this society help a service like you?
So for me, in terms of breaking down these stigmas, as Jason said, I think we've come a long way in breaking down stigma.
Yeah.
In terms of society, it is that non-judgmental attitude, recognising that what somebody's going through, their response might be a little bit different than your response, and it doesn't necessarily mean we have to have an opinion on it. Just sitting there and being and listening to somebody in a non-judgmental way is incredibly powerful.
Yes. Thank you very much. And what do you think about our studio here? And as a service in terms of the podcast?
For me, I think one of the biggest strengths of breaking down and supporting mental health and any sort of issues going on in your local community is about awareness and about knowledge and about spreading it. So I think podcasts like these that are reaching all angles of your community, this is the first step for people to get the support that they need, is to have that knowledge around what's available. Yeah,
and it's a wider reach as well. And that's brilliant. Jay?
I think, to be honest with you, well, for a start, we're subscribed to your YouTube channel. It's great. I think it's a really great resource for the people of Oldham.
Thank you.
And I think what you're doing is encouraging that kind of co-creation, co-working, partnership, true partnership working, shouting from the rooftops about what's going on in Oldham for local people. And providing that education, because sometimes, I've lived in Oldham since I was 6. I consider myself an Oldhamer, well and truly. And I tend to find that a lot of the time in Oldham, people want stuff, but they don't know always where to look.
Where to get it from, yes.
And this is a fantastic way to do that and to get the word out, not just with the podcasts and the YouTube stuff, but all of the community stuff that you're doing in the background as well.
So, can you tell me, in terms of the residents of Oldham, how did they find out where you're based? How can they contact you?
Where are we based, Jade?
Union Street in Oldham, right in the middle on the big main road. Okay. We have a website as well. You can phone into the office. We are a drop-in office. You can just walk in. We have services that you can access immediately as well. So depending on your need, we can cater to what you need as well.
And I'll chip in there and also say, please connect with us on our socials. Most people are on social media these days. It's a blessing and a curse. We have to accept that. Yes. But connect with us. If you're on social media, connect with us on our socials. We're on most of the most common ones. You just need to type in TOGMind or Tameside, Oldham and Glossop Mind.
Lovely. And we'll have that strip running at the bottom as well to let people know how to contact you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for coming to the studio, and let's do some co-production as we mentioned earlier. It'd be brilliant to work with you. So I'd like to thank Jason and Jade for coming. It's important that services are resourced, and at the same time we as a society collaborate to support those with mental health issues, to foster an inclusive environment, reduce stigma and promote overall well-being. Thank you for watching and listening. God bless.